Hey guys, welcome to my legal classes. This is Ganesh Pujari and we were discussing essentials of valid contract under which we were focusing on free consent. Under free consent we have already discussed coercion and undue influence. In my today's class we are going to focus on fraud, which is basically section 17 and little bit of section 19. Why to waste time? Let's get into the first slide. Section 17, which has 5 subclauses, defines what exactly is a fraud. If there is any false suggestion or statement, or if there is any concealment of fact made with a particular purpose, or if there are any false promises where there are no intention to perform such promises, or if there are any act fitted to deceive or misleading someone, or any such act or omission as the law specially declares to be fraudulent, all of them can be considered as fraud. One of the biggest fact that you need to remember, which is exactly bringing the biggest difference between section 17 and 18, that is fraud and misrepresentation, is in fraud there is one person who knows all the fact and he is making false suggestion or statement or misguiding or concealing the fact or makes the false promise or any kind of fraudulent activity to take the benefit of the other person who is actually innocent, who doesn't know anything. If it is done so, then that is fraud. If both the parties are not aware, then it is misrepresentation. Now what happens in fraud? A person has a camera. Now for example, let us call that person as A. Now A has a camera and he, for all the good reasons, knows that that camera is made in China. But he says to Mr. X that this camera is made of USA and sells it to particular price. Now A has done a fraudulent act because he is knowing the fact that this is not made of USA, but by saying that it is made of USA, he is concealing the fact as well as he is making a false suggestion and he is misleading Mr. X to buy that camera. So he has done a fraudulent act. All the subclasses are not very important, but 17.1, which discusses about false statement, is one of the important subclause. So I am elaborating it a little further. Now, if a person of 60 years want to buy an insurance and if he is saying for the benefit of him that he is of 50 years, in that case he is making false statement and that is fraud. That is what happened in the case of Eddington versus Fitzmaurice. What happened here? A company had a lot of financial difficulty and to raise fund they told that they want to improve the office and buy some furniture, etc., and they raised the fund. Here the party is very well aware that they need financial support for something else, but by concealing the fact they have done fraudulent with the others by raising the fund by saying different reasons. That is considered as fraud. Another important aspect that you need to remember is mere silence is not fraud. And the exception for that is if there are any duty to speak, in that case there is a duty to speak. Unless and otherwise, the mere silence cannot be considered as fraud, which was held in the case of Keats versus Lord Cadogan, where a person has given his house to another person for rent, and while giving rent the home condition was very poor and the person who was taking that home for rent was aware that the condition was very poor. Here there was no requirement to say that the condition of the home was very poor because the person who is going to take for rent was very well aware about the fact. So here it was held that silence cannot be considered as fraud. The next case that you should refer in your exam is Sri Krishna versus Kurukshetra University. Now Sri Krishna was a LLB student and while filling the application for his exam, he didn't fill the fact that he had shortage of attendance, and Supreme Court held that there is no fraud from the candidate as there was opportunity for both the law department as well as university to identify that he had shortage of attendance, but they have not done their scrutiny properly, so they cannot pass the burden to the student, and they said that the student should get the opportunity to write the exam. Though mere silence is not a fraud, in certain cases parties have the duties to speak. That means parties have the responsibility to give the information by making statement, and during that time if the parties are not giving the information, then that is fraud. That was what held in the case of Kiran Bala versus Srivastava. What happened here? There was a bride who already got married once and such marriage was ended in divorce because of her unsoundness of mind, and both these information was not informed to the second bridegroom and they were arranging the marriage. Here in this case this was fraud because such silence was ensuring that the information has not reached bridegroom, and in such case the parties have the duty to speak, and if they are not doing so, in that case that will be considered as fraud. There are 5 essentials for a fraud. The first being there must be a false statement or representation. Now, in the case of Peak versus Gurney, a company hidden all its liability to gain the shares and it was held fraud. In the second essential, the representation must be related to a fact, where in the case of Smith versus Chadwick, they made a catalog of the company where they represented the company as a very good company and they have hidden all the liability and increased the price of the share and it was held, it is fraud. And the third essential is representation must have been made. There should be some kind of statement or misleading statement made, or kind of concealment of fact should be there. That is very important. And the fourth essential is the other party must have been induced to act on such representation. The party which is making fraudulent representation should make that the other party is got influence with that and getting into a contract. And the last requirement is the other party must have been deceived. Now, just influencing is not sufficient. They should have to come to an actual agreement, and then the party is getting deceived. In that case, that is considered as fraud. Before concluding your answer for fraud, please bring section 19 as a reference, which gives an opportunity for the parties which have gone to agreement because of any kind of coercion, fraud or misrepresentation, and the party which got deceived can avoid the contract, because this section gives the opportunity of voidability of agreement without free consent. So the contract is voidable in the option of the party which is got deceived. That is what you need to mention under section 19. That brings an end to this particular video, and I don't think anything can go easier than this. In my next presentation, I am going to explain misrepresentation. Remember, most of the time fraud and misrepresentations are asked together along with the differences between them. In my next video, I am going to explain the concept misrepresentation. Along with that, I am also going to explain the differences available between the fraud and misrepresentation. With that, I am taking off from this particular video. All the very best for whatsoever purpose you are watching my video. Please subscribe my channel. If you are yet to subscribe my channel, please like, share and comment my videos. All the very best, and thank you so much again for watching me.